Hey everybody, this is Rex Spirit Fleet Project. I hope you're having a nice day today. I wanted to read a specific scripture or a treatise out of the Nag Hammadi scriptures. This is the most current version, and this is called On the Origin of the World. Now, the reason I want to read this to you is it gives you a different perspective on the creators of the planet, of the creation itself. It talks about the creation of paradise, Yaldabaoth, the chief Archon, the chief ruler. It has different aspect on the feminine side of creation also. And one of the things that's always got me about religion that I've always questioned, and it seems to get me in trouble every time I ask these questions by some people, they just don't like it, is why are you going to... Some people, not all people that are religious by any means, but some people that are religious feel that everything that is real is compiled in those 66 books that is in the Holy Bible. So then I ask, well, who decided to put those 66 books in there? And who decided to translate them from Hebrew to English? And then you think of also who decided to essentially come up with a conclusion on a translation saying that it is absolutely accurate, because if you get into gematria, every letter has a certain numerological value and it has a vibrational frequency that does mean something. Everything breaks down to vibrational frequencies. Even in the Bible, if you read the Genesis where it says God, in the beginning, God said the Word created everything. Well, the Word is a vibrational frequency in essence. So let me read this to you. This is fascinating. And I would also like to know why these books were suppressed, why they were hidden, why now we're getting access to them thousands of years later, and also why many crusaders and certain religious factions, including the Vatican, did their best to eliminate all alternative information about God, religion, the Creator, the creation, angels, Noah, Moses, Adam, Eve, the serpent, Samuel. Why do you not hear about the Archons that much except for from these specific treaties? And for those of you that are interested where the Nag Hammadi is, it's out there in Egypt, in caves in Egypt, in the Middle East. That they found these things in clay pots, essentially, and many of these treaties were non-recoverable, non-restorable, I should say, and many of them are restorable. And we're looking at them right here, and I'm going to read this to you. What do you think this means? Obviously, much of this is symbolic. Your mind should be able to break most of it down. On the origin of the world. Prologue. In the beginning. Since everyone, both the gods of the world and people, say that nothing existed before chaos, I shall prove they all are wrong, because they do not know the origin of chaos or its root. Here's the proof. Although certainly 98 people in general are inclined to say that chaos is darkness, in actuality chaos comes from a shadow, and it is shadow that has been called darkness. The shadow comes from something that has existed from the beginning, and so it is obvious that something in the beginning existed before chaos came into being, and the chaos came after what was in the beginning. Let us consider the facts of the matter, and particularly what was in the beginning, from which chaos came. In this way will the truth be clearly demonstrated. Now, we're going to get into the narration, origin of Sophia, and the powers of the world. After the world of the immortals was brought to completion out of infinite, a being with this likeness called Sophia flowed from Hypostasis. The being expressed its wish from that it come to resemble the first light, and at once it wish appeared as a heavenly likeness with an incomprehensible greatness. This being came to between the immortals and that what came after them, like what is above, and Sophia served as a veil separating humanity from the things above. The aeon of truth has no shadow within it, because infinite light shines everywhere within it. There is a shadow, however, outside of it, and that shadow has been called darkness. From the shadow appeared a power set over the darkness, and the power that came afterward, called the shadow, limitless chaos. From it every sort of deity emerged, one after another, along with the whole world. So the shadow came after something that existed in the beginning, and then it became visible. The abyss also came from Hypostasis, whom we have mentioned. The shadow sensed that there was one stronger than it. It was jealous, and when it became pregnant by itself, all of a sudden it gave birth to envy. Since then, the principle of envy has appealed in all the eons and their worlds, but envy turned out to be an aborted fetus without any spirit in it, and it came into being as a shadow in an expanse of watery substance. Bitter wrath came into being from the shadow and was cast into a region of chaos. Since that day, watery substance has been visible. What lurked in the shadow flowed out of appeared in chaos, just as all the afterbirth of a woman who gives birth to a baby flows out, so also the matter that came into being from the shadow was cast out. Matter did not come out of chaos. It was in chaos, in a region of chaos. All right, now it gets good. Now we're getting into the appearance of Yaldabaoth. Remember, Yaldabaoth is the chief creator in many of these scriptures, but Yaldabaoth is also a demigod, not the ultimate divine force. I've often wondered if Yaldabaoth is Yahweh. Don't be a hater. When you read the comparisons, Yaldabaoth and Yahweh are both jealous gods. There are a lot of similarities between the two. Now, I'm not saying they're the same entity. Here we go. The appearance of Yaldabaoth. After these things happened, Hypostasis came and appeared over chaotic matter. Now, for those of you that don't know what Hypostasis is, it's essentially the divine inspiration and faith sent from God, from divine providence, essentially in a nutshell. Hypostasis came and appeared over chaotic matter, which had been expelled like an aborted fetus, without any spirit in it, for chaos is all limitless darkness and unfathomable water. When Hypostasis saw what came into being from her deficiency, she was disturbed, and her disturbance appeared as something frightful, and it fled to her in the chaos. She turned to it and blew into its face in the abyss below all the heavens. When Hypostasis Sophia wanted to cause this thing with no spirit to be made into a likeness of the divine and rule over matter and all its powers, for the first time an Archon appeared out of the waters, lion-like in appearance, androgynous, with great authority in himself, but ignorant of where he came from. That's Yaldabaoth. When Hypostasis Sophia saw him moving in the depths of the water, she said to him, "Young man, move over here," which is the meaning of Yaldabaoth. Since then, the facility of speech, or the faculty of speech, has come to expression, and the faculty of speech pertains to the gods, angels, and people. The gods, angels, and people have brought to completion what has come into being by means of the word. The ruler Yaldabaoth is ignorant of the power of Hypostasis. He did not see her face, but in the water he saw the likeness that spoke to him, and from that voice he called himself Yaldabaoth. Those who are perfect call him Ariel, because he is like a lion. After Yaldabaoth assumed authority over matter, Hypostasis Sophia withdrew up to her light. All right, so make of that what you will. That's very deep, that's very symbolic, and essentially the people that compiled these texts were Gnostics. They were in the Middle East, obviously, and had a completely different interpretation than many of the mainstream quos with God, religion. There's a lot of texts and scriptures in this specific tract or treatise or multitude of treatises, I should say, that talk about Jesus actually mocking people, the real Jesus come down and mocking the Jesus that's portrayed in the Testament, in the New Testament. Very fascinating stuff indeed, and I can certainly see why it's controversial. Now let's get into... Well, okay, let me go over a little bit. Yaldabaoth creates heaven and earth and produces sons, because this is very numerological. There's a lot of substance as far as connecting dots, numbers, etc. And if you are into numerology and gematria, maybe you can break this down for me in reference to what it means as far as stars, time, calendar reference, or something. I don't know. When the ruler saw his greatness, he only saw himself and nothing else except water and darkness. Now, this is out of Yaldabaoth creates heaven and earth and produces suns. He thought that only he existed. His thought was completed by means of the word. And it appeared as a spirit moving to and fro over the waters. When the spirit appeared, the ruler separated the watery substance to one region and the dry substance to another region. From matter the ruler created for himself a dwelling place and called it heaven. And from matter he created a footstool and called it earth. And this the ruler had a thought in accordance with his nature, and he created an androgynous being by means of the word. He opened his mouth and cooed to him. The child opened his eyes and saw his father and said to him, "Eh!" So the father called him Yao. Oh yeah, totally get that, don't you? The ruler created a second son and cooed to him. The child opened his eyes, and he said to his father, "Eh!" So his father called him Eloi. Oh yeah, totally makes sense. The ruler created a third son and cooed to him. The child opened his eyes and said to his father, "As." So his father called him Astaphios. These are the three sons of their fathers. Can you connect any dots there? Because I can't. Right now, anyway. The seven heavens of chaos. Seven androgynous beings appeared in chaos, and they have masculine names and feminine names. Yaldabaoth's feminine name is forethought. Sambathus, which designates the weak. His son is called Yao, and his feminine name is mastery. Sabbath's feminine name is divinity. Andonia's feminine name is kingship. Eloi's feminine name is envy. Oriah's feminine name is wealth. Astaphios' feminine name is Sophia. These are the seven powers, the seven heavens of chaos. The powers were androgynous in accordance with the immortal pattern that exists before them and the will of Hypostasis, so that the likeness of what was from them, what was from the beginning, might have power to the end. You know, once again, this is all very symbolic, and I don't really know how to explain that. Now, I do want to go over a few more things with you. Yaldabaoth boasts that he is God. After the heavens, their powers, and their entire government were established, the chief creator exalted himself, and he was glorified by the whole army of angels. All the gods and their angels praised and glorified him. He was delighted. He boasted over and over again and said to them, "I don't need anything." He said, "I am God, and there is no other but me." When he said this, he sinned against all the immortals who speak forth, and they watched him carefully. When Hypostasis saw the impiety of the supreme ruler, she became angry. Without being seen, she said, "You are wrong, Samael," which means blind God. An enlightened immortal human exists before you, and you will appear within the forms you have shaped. The humans will trample upon you as pottery's clay is trampled, and you will descend with those who are yours to your mother, the abyss. And when your work comes to an end, all the deficiency that appears from truth will be dissolved. It will cease to be, and it will be like what never was. So that's pretty powerful. I mean, that's essentially calling out a demigod that thinks he's God, saying that humans are greater than he. And when you read about the secret book of John, when Yaldabaoth blew life into Adam from Sophia, he then realized that Adam was greater than he was, and it freaked him out. So him and his other Archons that he created did their best to suppress Adam and Eve. There's talk about manipulation of the serpent attempting to help Eve from the Archons. Completely different spin on paradise. So with that said, I want to talk about Yaldabaoth produces death. This is a couple chapters later. When the chief creator of chaos saw his son Sabbath and the glory in which he dwells, and recognized that he was the greatest of all the authorities of chaos, he was jealous of him. He was angry, and he engendered death from his own death. Death was established over the sixth heaven, for Sabbath had been carried away from there. So the complete number of the six authorities of chaos was realized. Since death was androgynous, he had sex with himself and produced 7 androgynous children. These are the names of the males: envy, wrath, tears, sighs, grief, lament, tearful groans. These are the names of the females: anger, pain, lust, sighs, curses, bitterness, strife. They had sex with each other, and each one conceived 7 children, so that the children total 49 androgynous demons. You will find their names and functions in the Book of Solomon. Now that's interesting, because in the Book of Solomon, I had a copy of the 1913 version that was put together. Glad I got rid of that thing. That had 72 lesser keys, 72 demons. So there's 49 referred to in here. Now that's another thing that I want to share with you, and I'm going to do a podcast on this on another time. This is not the 72 lesser keys of Solomon. This is actually the clavis or key to the magic of Solomon from an original talismanic grimoire in full color. Now, this essentially takes the different keys of the lesser keys of Solomon, and it has different sigils and patterns and such. So I'll just share a little bit with you here. But this is the spirit will of angelic names and different entities as well. And you can see this was put together. I mean, this isn't like typed. This is written. This is handwritten. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. But the cool thing about sigils, and when you really start to study, if you ever do study the lesser keys of Solomon, I wouldn't recommend practicing it. I don't even know if I'd recommend studying it, because it's very powerful. Yet, if you ever do get into researching different sigils and the creation of these sigils that are connected to the lesser keys of Solomon, which could be what some consider demonic forces or just entities at a different vibrational frequency at a lower plane, it's very powerful stuff. So I'm just looking for a couple of sigils that I'll share with you, or maybe just one. Here we go. Now, these are sigils of the sun and the moon. You know, we did a podcast yesterday on the sun box, the number 666. So these are specific sigils that if you draw these, and put energy into them, you can reference them to either the male sun power, swing, or the feminine moon aspect as well. Very powerful indeed. So we'll leave that. I'm going to put this away. No. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. No pun intended there. Ba-da-ba. Okay. So we went over the Yaldabaoth produces death. You can find their names in the Book of Solomon. And then let's get into Yaldabaoth is distressed after his mistake. Adam of light shines forth. The creation of paradise. This is a couple pages later. The creation of paradise. Here we go. Then justice created paradise. Paradise is beautiful and is outside the circuit of the moon and the circuit of the sun and the land of pleasure. Wow, that's a strange synchronicity, because I just opened up the Solomon book there, and what was the sigils that I just opened up? The first two. The sun and the moon. And now we're talking about what's outside of the sun and the moon, paradise. Interesting. Just a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. No synchronicity there. Then justice created paradise. Paradise is beautiful and is outside the circuit of the moon and the circuit of the sun in the land of pleasure, which is in the east in the rocky region. Desire dwells in the middle of the beautiful stately trees. The tree of life eternal, as it appeared by the will of God, is in the north of paradise to give immortality to the souls of holy people who will leave their poor model bodies at the end of the age. The tree of life looks like the sun, and its branches are lovely. Its leaves are like the leaves of the cypress. Its fruit is like a cluster of white grapes, and its height reaches the sky. Next to it, the tree of knowledge, which is endowed with the power of God. It is glorious as the moon shining brightly, and its branches are lovely. Its leaves are like fig leaves, and its fruit is like a bunch of good, delicious dates. The tree of knowledge is in the north of paradise to arouse the souls from demonic stupor, so that they might come to the tree of life, eat its fruit, and condemn the authorities and their angels. The impact of the tree is described in the Holy Book. You are the tree of knowledge, which is in paradise, from which the first man ate. You opened his mind, and he loved his female partner, and condemned other strange figures, and he loathed them. Then it gets into the creation of plants, animals, heavenly bodies, the creation of humankind. Maybe we'll get into that next time. The Song of Eve, the rulers of the world mold Adam. Eve gives Adam life. The powers rape earthly Eve. Maybe we should go over that for a minute. The powers rape earthly Eve. The authorities were told that their modeled body was alive and had gotten up, and they were greatly troubled. They sent 7 archangels to see what had happened. They came to Adam, and when they saw Eve speaking with him, they said to each other, "Who is this enlightened woman? She looks like what appeared to us in the light. Come, let's seize her and ejaculate our semen into her, so that she may be unclean and unable to ascend to her light, and her children will serve us. But let's not tell Adam, because he is not one of us. Instead, let's put him to sleep and suggest to him in his sleep that Eve came from his rib, so that the woman may serve, and he may rule over her. Since Eve was a heavenly power, she laughed at what they had in mind. She blinded their eyes and secretly left something that resembled her with Adam. She entered the tree of knowledge and stayed there. The rulers chased her, and she became to them that she had entered the tree and had become a tree. The blind powers fell into great fear and ran away. Later, when they recovered their sight, they came to Adam. They saw a female like that woman with him, and they were troubled and thought, this was the true Eve. They acted rashly. They came to her, seized her, and ejaculated their semen upon her. The power acted wickedly. They defiled her in ways natural and obscene. First, they defiled the seal of her voice, which had said to them, "What exists before you?" In this way, they meant also to defile those who say that they were born at the end of the age, through the world, through the true human. The authorities and their angels erred. They did not know they defiled their own body and likeness in all these ways. Eve bears the children of the powers, the trees of paradise, and the beast. The rulers confront Adam and Eve. Phoenixes, water serpents, and bulls of Egypt. I mean, I could go on, you guys, but little bit of a difference there, huh? In this version of what happened in paradise and Adam, Eve, the chief creator, versus the Old Testament. And then which Old Testament are you going to read? You going to read the King James Version? Are you going to go to the original Hebrew texts? That's one thing I appreciate about Alex a whole bunch, and he's been on the show a few times. He knows Hebrew. He can read the Old Testament in Hebrew, the original text, or at least the original texts that are being presented to him. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that those texts are accurate by any means. I'm not saying that these texts are accurate. I'm saying WTF. What in the world were they thinking when this stuff was written, and why was it written the way that it was? What's the symbology behind it? I mean, don't you guys want to know this stuff? I do. That's why I get in trouble so much. I shouldn't say in trouble, but that's why I get scolded so much. And man, there is a really cool song right now that I just want to start jamming to. All right. Nanu, 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 nanu. Pyramid power, ladies and gentlemen. Question everything. Be the change you want to see. LeakProject.com and YouTube.com/clandestine Time Lord. Have a beautiful day. Boom! Nanu, nanu. Nanu, nanu. Why these books were suppressed, why they were hidden, why now we're getting access to them thousands of years later, and also why many crusaders and certain religious factions, including the Vatican, did their best to eliminate all alternative information about God, religion, the Creator, the creation, angels, Noah, Moses, Adam, the planet of the creation itself. It talks about the creation of paradise, Yaldabaoth, the chief Archon, the chief ruler. It has different aspect on the feminine side of creation also. And one of the things that's always got me about religion that I've always questioned, and it seems to get me in trouble every time I ask these questions by some people, they just don't like it, is why are you going to, some people, not all people that are religious by any means, but some people that are religious feel that everything that is real is compiled in those 66 books that is in the Holy Bible. So then I ask, well, who decided to put those 66 books in there? And who decided to translate them from Hebrew to English? And then you think of also who decided to essentially come up with a conclusion on a... Hey everybody, this is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I hope you're having a nice day today. I wanted to read a specific scripture or a treatise out of the Nag Hammadi scriptures. This is the most current version. And this is called On the Origin of the World. Now, the reason I want to read this to you is it gives you a different perspective on the creators of translation, saying that it is absolutely accurate. Because if you get into gematria, every letter has a certain numerological value, and it has a vibrational frequency that does mean something. Everything breaks down to vibrational frequencies. Even in the Bible, if you read the Genesis where it says, God, in the beginning, God said the Word created everything. Well, the Word is a vibrational frequency, in essence. So let me read this to you. This is fascinating. And I would also like to know